Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very, very special episode of Locked On Canadiens. The Habs won a game, which is truly stunning, and yet somehow have still clinched last place in the NHL. Thank you very much to the Arizona Coyotes. We have all our reactions to that and more inside today's show.
For Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 604 of Locked On Canadiens. And inside today's show, as we said, the Habs have finished in last place. They have clinched last place. There is no more needing to stress and to freak out and to do any of that. We will continue to do that on our show because that is our brand a little bit. I am one of your hosts. I am Scott Matlin. I'm joined, as always, by the active stick, Laura Saba, who is fresh off another wild episode of Game Over Montreal with Alice Moran and Andrew Berkshire. Laura, the Habs won, which is potentially more stunning than anything else that has happened tonight.
You know what? It seemed like we were never going to see another win again, but now the Canadiens have won in all the arenas for teams where Marty St. Louis has played. So he did allude to that in his post game. So, you know what? They gave him a little bit of positivity, and Jeff Petry and Mike Hoffman, when you want them to not do well, they are doing well. It feels like they can't get anything right, but honestly, I feel great for both of them. I'm really happy that the Canadiens did get a win, and I'm also happy that they locked in 32nd overall. I do think that doesn't necessarily guarantee that they're going to get the first overall pick, obviously, but it's a step in the right direction.
It's a very weird feeling because, I don't think the Habs played all that great tonight. Every time I looked in, they were doing something stupid, and they only had 4 shots in the second period and scored on one of them to tie the game. Everything about it felt very stupid overall. They did score all 4 of their goals at even strength, which is actually truly impressive. And the possession numbers don't look terrible. And I just look at this game and I go, how did they win? And then I looked at the Rangers benched or didn't have any of their stars playing. And I go, okay, so they beat a mostly third string lineup. Congratulations. But it's a feel good kind of game. Jeff Petry had a really strong showing offensively. And there was a tweet going around, I believe, from Habs Links that it says, he has 20 points in 29 games under Martin St. Louis after having 6 and 38 under Dominique Ducharme. That's a very big, crucial point here that I look at this and I go, it raises his trade value going into the offseason, but it also kind of shows Gordon and Hughes that it's this is probably the guy you're going to get here. The actual Jeff Petry. Yes, he might not be at his peak like he was in the past couple of years, but there's still value there. It was a value boosting game, and Mike Hoffman down the stretch, for as much crap as we give him on this show, and we give him a lot of crap, which some of it is deserved, has also played well down the stretch in a bigger role because he's one of the few guys they have to play a bigger role. He got another goal tonight, and I look at this and I go, they won the game. They got some help from Arizona, which we will talk about in our next segment. We have a lot to discuss there. And they have the right guys doing the right things to boost their own value. And I'm going to be real honest. Even if Arizona didn't win tonight, I would have been perfectly fine with the Habs winning this game because it's not hard to feel good for guys like Petry and other ones who have struggled through so much crap this year to finally have a good game. I'm not going to get upset about that. I love Jeff Petry. That's not going to be a shock to anyone who's listened to the show or follows me on Twitter. But you know what? It's a nice feeling. Wins are nice, and there's only one game left on Friday. I got to say, you got to win it for Carey Price if he's playing. If you don't win it for Carey Price, then what the hell, guys? Seriously, what the hell are we even doing here?
I absolutely agree with that. And Here's the thing is that there were a lot of people in the last few days that were kind of panicking about not getting the first overall. We did talk about it in our previous episode, but wins are fun. It's nice to win, especially when it's a stupid win that you didn't even deserve against a team you dislike. To snatch victory from something like that makes me feel good. I enjoy that. The game itself was extremely boring. It was not a good game. But the fact that they beat the Rangers, I enjoy the hell out of that. I will say, that tribute to Guy Lafleur, Rangers, extremely shame on you. Extremely, extremely, extremely. A moment of silence is for other teams where he did not play, where he was not a legend that belonged to you. That was pitiful.
So here's the thing is I missed that because I was also covering the Rocket game at the same time, but the tribute was a 5-second moment of silence and that was it. He played for your goddamn team. What? You're the New York Rangers. You are a storied NHL franchise. You're one of the original 6. You play in the most famous arena in the world.
The world's most famous arena. That's what they say every time they say Madison Square Garden.
Madison Fart Garden, more like it. Anyways, just what the hell is that?
Put up a video, 3 highlights, just 3 highlights. Not nothing. That was shameful and pitiful. And here's the thing: the Ottawa Senators did a better job of doing a tribute to Guy Lafleur than the New York Rangers.
And that's the thing is, it's I don't expect what Montreal did. That would be far too much of me. But that's it. That, come on. And you know what? Good. I'm glad they beat the Rangers. I don't care that Kreider and Fox and Zibanejad and Panarin and et cetera weren't playing tonight. It's nice to get a win. It's just nice to win one. And
it's nice to win one. Sorry, I'm interrupting. It's nice to win one. It's nice for Hoffman and Jeff Petry to raise their trade value, but also it's nice for Nick Suzuki to have an opportunity to hit that 60-point plateau because it's apparently the first time in a million years that somebody's done that.
I completely blanked on that too. That Suzuki, there's a lot of good things out of this game here. I can't find it in my heart of hearts, especially because it's late at night when we were recording this, to be mad about that game, whether Arizona won or lost, because having a rot of 9 games in a row that you've lost sucks. It makes everyone miserable. Everyone's on edge and no one's happy. Less people are upset now. There's still people who are mad, but those people are going to stay mad no matter what. So it's nice to get a win. It's nice for it to coincide with what happened out west. And speaking of what happened out west, it was a wild night in the Western Conference, and we're going to break this up a little bit into 2 segments here because there's a lot to talk about. But Arizona has allowed Montreal to lock up 32nd overall. We're going to talk about what that means for the Canadiens and their offseason plans coming up next. But first, Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' insane protection program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair, and they will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America whenever you shop with Shady Rays. And exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com and use code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season, 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses. And they are backed by over 150,000 5-star reviews. All right, so holy mother of merciful God, did the NHL just take the crazy dial and just crank that sucker up? They hit 10 and they went, nah, that's not enough. So they got the bigger knob next to it and just kept cranking that up until all of the insanity happened at one friggin' time. The Dallas Stars were up 3-0 on the Arizona Coyotes going into the third period, where we're looking at it and going, well, Habs and Coyotes, going to come right down to the wire, the last game of the year. They should probably lose against Florida just because. And then Dallas super hard and blew a 3-0 lead. And Arizona won it in overtime, allowing Montreal to lock up 32nd overall. And don't worry, we will get to Vegas and all of that in our next segment, because that's a whole nother bit of fun schadenfreude to dive into. But my first thought is the Canadiens now have the best overall odds at drafting Shane Wright. They are the first team in history to finish 32nd overall, because obviously there were not 32 teams last year. I think they are the first team to go from the Stanley Cup final to potentially drafting first overall or finishing dead last in the league. And there are snarky comments from certain Toronto blogs going, oh, I hope they have a ceremony for it. One, maybe don't make a comment about ceremonies the week after a legend of the Canadiens died. Just because you don't know how to stand on ceremony and honor anyone in your franchise sucks for you. Leave us alone. And also, you know what? Maybe we will. And maybe we'll have it against Toronto, where we can raise a banner right next to the Stanley Cup ones, the ones you haven't seen since 1967, you pitiful ass franchise. That's besides the point right now. They're going to pick in the top 2. They're likely going to pick first overall with the draft in Montreal. They're going to more than likely draft Shane Wright with that first overall pick. And yet I don't think it changes anything for this offseason. We talked in our first segment about how good this was for Jeff Petry and Mike Hoffman to have a strong end of their season that likely makes them easier to trade now. I'm still convinced that at least Petry is leaving this offseason, among other pieces. But now they're adding almost guaranteed Shane Wright, who fits the mold of what this team needs down the middle behind Nick Suzuki. With all due respect to Christian Dvorak, they never really gave him a defined role. Next year, if you're still rebuilding, you put Shane Wright in that 2C role. For the love of God, get him a good defensive winger and someone else go re-sign Arturi Lehkonen if you can. You know what? That'd be perfect. Bring my Finnish son back to me. But honestly, as much as they're going to pick first overall potentially, I don't think this changes what their plan is here. I still think they're not going to be great next year, which is fine because Connor Bedard. But it's nice to know that the chance of getting a piece they desperately need is that much closer to the team.
I agree. And here's the thing is that, we talk so much about how untalented the Canadiens are, blah, 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 blah. But, and this is extremely informed by the Game Over episode I was on with Alice Moran, who's an Oilers fan. And they had this 10-year misery era, after going to the Stanley Cup final. And I know, it is entirely possible that the Canadiens follow up their Stanley Cup final appearance, their fluke Stanley Cup final appearance. Well, fluke and earn it. I don't want people arguing with me in the comments. We are not going to relitigate that. But to follow it up with years and years of misery, the one difference is that Montreal has competent management. It's not going to be 10 years of misery, but it is going to be uncomfortable for a couple of years. And I think we should be prepared for that. It's not going to be amazing. It's not going to be an immediate turnaround, but every little positive thing that happens, just think about when the Canadiens hired St. Louis. Just think about when Justin Barron played his first game and people realized he was better than expected. Just think about when Jordan Harris signed and showed up. All those little things, we're going to be living moments like that before we can live playoff triumph and, even making the playoffs. And that's perfectly fine with me.
I will trade 1 or 2 years of pain for stable long-term success leading to a Stanley Cup or more in that time frame. Because here's the thing is, we've seen so many teams, in Vegas is going through that now, and I know I keep bringing them up, they're going to be in our next segment here, but it's they went for immediate results. And when you make short-sighted moves instead of long-term planning, your franchise struggles to find long-term success. You're as good as those short-sighted moves last you. And the minute they stop paying dividends, you end up in a real rough spot overall here. And I look at Montreal, and that's a lot of what Marc Bergevin did, maybe not last year, but definitely in this last offseason. It's all short-sighted plugins, and it didn't work. And now the franchise he basically ran for a decade, he did run it for a decade, is 32nd overall. They are in a very rough spot. Their cap's not great. There's a lot of work to be done, but that doesn't mean we still can't celebrate this. But the road ahead is not paved it's not done yet. There are still unforeseen twists and turns. We don't know what's going on with Carey Price. We don't know what the trade market looks like. We don't know even if they are picking first overall. But at the same time, there is a way forward through this, and it's going to be bumpy and it's going to be ugly, but you have to be prepared for that. The people who want this to be over and done with so the team can get back to winning, I have really bad news for you. It's not going to be that simple. And look at the Rangers. They ended up having a real rough ride through there. And as Andrew pointed out on Game Over, is that they got bumped up in the draft twice, and neither pick is fully kind of fleshed itself out. Surround your young guys here. It's going to be there's going to be pain. You're going to see a lot of, long time names likely leave in the next year to 18 months. And that's just part of it. But at the same time, I'm not fussed if I can see what the actual vision of this team is. And I think it's a lot of rebuilding. It's going to be a retooling and a reimagining of the Montreal Canadiens. And I think that's really important. And I trust Hughes and Gorton here. I mean, they haven't given me a reason not to. Everything they said they're going to do so far, they've done. They're like, we're going to move X, Y, and Z, and then we'll revisit this in the offseason. We're going to do right by these players. They're doing that. And that's it. They're doing it. I feel comfortable with that.
Right. And the one important thing is I know we're going to have to move on to the next segment. The one important thing is that even when they've been wrong, they have not been afraid to change their course and be transparent about it. For example, they said they didn't think that there needed to be a coaching change in Montreal until the end of the season. And then they were like, oh no, this can't continue this way. And they walked that back. They talked about it. They faced the media on it, and they made a decision that did. And we are going to talk about this in the offseason once the game are over. We're gonna do a comparison for the people that think that the Canadiens didn't get better under Martin St. Louis. Like, there's a lot to be said about that. And I do appreciate that they have admitted when what they were doing wasn't in the best interest of the team and changed their course. I appreciate that so much as a fan of this franchise.
Yeah, and obviously with May 10th just around the corner, we will have a live show after that where we react to what is hopefully the Canadiens getting the first overall pick. Like, there is so much happening. Like Laura said in the last episode, the Rocket are in the playoffs. They lost again tonight. And quick injury update, Lucas Vedemo is out for 7 months, requiring hamstring surgery, which is a really unfortunate time for him. He will not be ready for next season at a time when I think he could have really earned a regular NHL role with this team. It's a tough break for him. It's a very big blow for the Rocket, who could have used his penalty killing prowess going into the playoffs, but such is life. We're going to have obviously draft profiles, draft experts, and so much more, especially once we know where the Canadiens are picking, who we should be on the lookout for, and so much else. But coming up in our last segment, Arizona was not the only bit of insanity happening out on the West Coast tonight. We're talking Vegas again, and we're going to talk so much other nonsense happening around the league coming up next. But first, BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting stats and sport info. Get all the latest developments across the NBA playoffs, the start of the MLB season, the NHL playoffs coming up. There is something for everybody. And BetOnline is going to be your continued source for all your sports wagering info, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so I know we are not a Vegas Golden Knights podcast, but they keep popping up because people enjoy their misery, and that people is me, because I was cyberbullying their Twitter account tonight, and I don't regret any of it because their Twitter account sucks. The Vegas Golden Knights, for the first time in their history, have not qualified for the Stanley Cup playoffs. They were eliminated by the Arizona Coyotes and Dallas Stars, going to overtime while they were in the middle of a shootout with the Chicago Blackhawks, a team who are, quite frankly, garbage in their own right. And to cap it all off, they lost in that shootout anyways, which is hilarious to me because they got eliminated. And then the next shooter who went out there for Vegas, whether he knew or not, just kind of put this real half-assed effort into his shot. And that is how Vegas's season ended, with a goalie controversy, with Sabres fans dunking on them, with the entirety of hockey Twitter dunking on them. I gotta say, I'm all for going for it and being that team. And I don't know at what point Vegas crossed the line from, haha, we're fun and spunky to we're just annoying now. Carolina crossed that line last year. The bunch of jerks thing got tired real quickly here. Am I a bad person for enjoying the downfall of the Vegas Golden downfall? They didn't make the playoffs. My team finished 32nd, so I can't really talk crap about them right now. But like, am I a garbage person for enjoying this as much as I am?
If you are, then basically almost every other NHL fan is a garbage person. Here's the thing is I think one of the things is that, the first year everybody made fun of them and what they did with that expansion draft, and it turned out that they made some smart decisions, right? And everybody was like, "Oh, they went to the Stanley Cup final in their first year," and that was fantastic, right? It was a great story, it was feel good, and then they started treating people like crap, starting with their with their coach when they fired Gallant, like they hired somebody who wasn't better than him, right? That was the thing is that they fired somebody who, like, when somebody became available that has not seen the success that you want, right, at other franchises. So that to me was like, it seemed like a stupid decision, but whatever, right? They were still the fun new franchise with like really gaudy pregame ceremonies and things. Like, I love that stuff. Here's the thing. It's like, it's tacky as all hell, but that's Vegas and it fit, right? It fits. It's very much like that. It would be like, I'm not gonna, it would be like, for example, if the Toronto Maple Leafs before every game went up 3-1 and then they lost and then that was their pregame ceremony each time, right? Like, that's how fitting it would be. And so that nights and the fireworks and the loudness and the all of that, it's like Tampa and the Tesla coil, right? Like, it's gaudy, it's tacky, it's but it
It's
fits.
Vegas. It's shiny,
fits, right?
it's dumb, and it doesn't make sense anywhere else in the world except for there.
Right, exactly. But then they became this franchise that literally was treating players like objects and like, like a Tetris of you're discarding this one guy to bring in this other guy or to elevate this other guy, all in the name of singular winning, right? There was like the cap circumvention that they were doing that we were all complaining about when it was Tampa, but then we looked at Vegas and it's like they had like, I don't know how many million above the cap. So like, once they started it's not even that they played outside the rules, because for me, the rules exist. If you can break them in such a way that doesn't harm people, go ahead, right? If you can circumvent the cap, go ahead. Smart, do it. Whatever. You win, that's fine. But then, why are you making that face?
I am looking at Vegas as cap friendly right now. They are $10 million over the cap right now. Oh my God. Hold on. I want to see what they look like next year. What is their projected cap hit? They're still over the cap for next season.
Fantastic. So now all these other NHL teams are going to be able to feast on that carcass, right? But basically, and then, the whole Marc-Andre Fleury thing and the Dodano, all of that stuff, it all adds up to a team that is so singularly focused on winning, and they haven't even won yet, that they discard people. And I think that's why people don't like it, right? Like, you can talk about how their fans act like they haven't been here before, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that stuff. Go nuts, have fun. I love fan stuff. But just the franchise just gives me that icky feeling now. And it's like, I feel like, yes, every fan wants to win, right? I want the Montreal Canadiens to win, but not at such a high human cost is where I stand.
It's like we talked about in our show yesterday, is that they just throw people out for the shiny new toy. And it's like Jack Eichel makes $10 million until 2027. Mark Stone is making 9.5 past 2027. Max Pacioretty makes $7 million for 2 more years. William Karlsson makes 5.9 past 2027. Jonathan Marchessault makes $5 million for the next 2 seasons after this. Alex Pietrangelo is making 8.8 past that. Zach Whitecloud makes 2.75 starting next year and going past 2027. Like, they're so intent on making this team work that they spent all this money on pieces. And now in that same time frame, they have pissed off their starting goalie, which is a real bad thing. They are still over the cap. They're going to have a bunch of guys who are leaving in UFA and RFA here that played key roles on their team, and they're capped out. They don't have any cap space, and now they're going to have to jettison more assets they built around and try to fix all this. And they can't just call up, some of their prospects. You know why? Because they traded all of them for some of these big names. It's like I'm looking at their prospects here, and it's like there's some decent names here, but there's no one that's going to make a big difference for them next year. Or if they do, they're not going to be a guaranteed hit. This team is a story of Icarus. They wanted to keep getting as close to the sun as they can, but then they flew too close to Philip Deneau, and Dominique Ducharme fell into Shea Weber's Minotaur pit, and now they're paying the consequences. It's always great to go for it. I encourage teams to be like all gas, no brakes, because it's fun as hell. I love watching it happen, but this is also a cautionary tale, is that you have to be smart about it. That's not saying you need to be Ken Holland, who went, well, it's not really the time to go for it. You have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. You should be doing what Vegas is doing and getting it before both of those guys are sick and tired of losing and jettison out of there. Vegas is in for a rude awakening. They might bounce back next year once they're all healthy, but they're over the cap. Their starting goalie has real bad vibes. Their coach, I don't think, has been very good for a couple of years, but his roster's been so good they could not fail. They are at a crossroads now, and it feels weird to say that, 4 or 5 years into their existence, but this is where you're at. Welcome to the muck. You are now like the rest of us. You don't get to win all the time, and guess what? You got to figure out what to do now. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty, and no one said it was. And this isn't to throw shade at their fans or anything like that. I just want to see their Twitter account tweet through it, because I am a garbage human being. So I am very excited. The playoffs are here. Vegas is not in them. The Canadiens have the best shot at first overall. It's been a wild week, and it's not over yet. There is one Habs game left. They play Friday. Carey Price is potentially expected to start. We will have news on his injury checkup, whatever he had in New York, on tomorrow's episode. It's also our mailbag. So please send us the last mailbag of the regular season at LO_Canadiens on Twitter. You can follow Laura at The Active Stick, myself at Scott Matla. Please subscribe on YouTube. We'd love you forever if you would do that. And please, when you're done here, check out Locked On NHL, where you can get news and updates from all of our local hosts on everything happening around the NHL. We will see you for the mailbag, and then we will see you all after that.